we get to talk about just a little tiny PlayStation game that's coming to PC. Uh, and as has been the trend so far, the gap has shrunk even further between the PS5 release and the PC release. And that game is Spider Man 2. Marvel's Spider Man 2. And of course, there's plenty of salt out there. Not that we're going to really get into the salt, because that's not the point of this discussion, other than being able to just laugh. Um, but the main thing is that this is coming out just 15 months after it released on PS5. And in talking about this on the PlayStation blog with this release, they've also said that they're not going to be doing any story DLC for Spider-Man 2, which I'm not positive whether or not it was something that was originally promised. I don't think it was, but if it was, it's like that sucks for, really just for the PlayStation people who bought it early, because now the PC people, us PC people who want it, which I don't, can buy the game, a superior version of the game that's going to run better, look better, and potentially cost less. I'm guessing it'll still be 70. And the gap is super small comparatively. I mean, the last game that came out, the last PlayStation first party release that wasn't just a remaster like with Until Dawn, because Until Dawn was really the last one that came out, but the last first party game that was originally released on PS5 and PS4 was God of War Ragnarok, and that came out, I think it was a year and 10 months, a year and 10 months, almost exactly, I believe. Because I'm pretty sure it was November of 2022 that came to PS5 and PS4, and then it came to PC in September of 2024. So, so that was a 22-month gap about, and this is only a 15-month gap. So that's a pretty dramatic difference there. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, my initial thoughts of this would be, you don't want Spider-Man 2 on PC because you're a fanboy. I don't want it on PC because I only want good games on there. We are not the same. But it definitely is interesting seeing that the time frame has dropped dramatically, going from, like you said, 22 months to only 15. Now, something also that I think maybe the reason for this happening could be the fact that, with Concord not doing as well as Sony would have liked, they're really trying to get some extra revenue coming in, and so maybe they wanted to, maybe this was something they already plan on doing, releasing it when they are, but I think maybe they could have shortened that gap because they're like, hey, we just lost a ton of money over this game. Let's try to recoup some of that money somewhere else. And so they probably are saying, yeah, let's just release this a little earlier than we intended on doing it. So that could be a reason for that. But maybe they are just shortening the gap, and maybe we could get to a point where a game is just 12 months apart from the PS5 release and the PC release. Now, one question I actually did have, because we are technically already knew this was coming because of the Nvidia leak. Apart from Demon Souls, what's left that hasn't been announced? Officially, that is.
You mean specifically PS5 games or PlayStation in general?
Yeah, I guess PS5 or PlayStation in general from the
from the Nvidia leak. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at that again. I think Demon Souls might be the only one that hasn't yet. Yeah, I don't remember anything else. I'm pretty sure that at least as far as the actual PlayStation first party games, Demon Souls is the only one that hasn't been yet.
Yeah. So I mean, we're definitely we're definitely getting there with completing our full bingo card of games there. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Now, one thing I'm very curious about is with the modders, like how they're going to mod the game. Because if they can do something like cut out a lot of the content, I would just be intrigued. I would be intrigued about. I mean, I might not necessarily buy the game, but I would be intrigued because if you could cut out a bunch of the Mary Jane sections, if I mean, of course, the people are already gonna be modding the models already anyway,
yeah,
so
for sure.
I already know that's coming. But if they could cut out a chunk of that content and just keep it essentially where you're just playing a Spider-Man, or Miles, if you just play as that, I would find it interesting and just be like, huh. If I were to actually buy the game, would that make it worth it? I'm granted, you can't mod out the story, unfortunately, but I would just be curious to see what would happen on that end. But yeah, definitely interesting that we're getting the technically superior version. Oh, but to answer something you mentioned earlier, there actually was DLC that was planned. I think there were three separate DLC. One was for Chameleon, one was for Carnage.
Gotcha.
And I can't remember what the third one was for, though.
I remember that now. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you did intend on thinking that you would be getting the DLC, now was the DLC supposed to be free, or was that part of like
it was definitely paid. I'm not sure if it was something that was included in like a season pass. I'm assuming. Well, I would hope that it wasn't, because Sony would either have completely ripped off a bunch of people, or they would have to refund a bunch of people. But my guess is that probably it wasn't included, that they didn't have a season pass or anything.
Okay, yeah, because I was just about to I was about to mention that, wondering how is that going to affect people who, could have bought, like, say, a deluxe edition that came with a season pass, and now it's like, oh, sorry guys, no DLC coming anymore. And I mean, that's also on top of the fact that they canceled the Spider-Man Spider-Verse side game that they were gonna have for that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that was on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, with the mods, they can't fix the story. I mean, they could cut out all the Mary Jane stuff and it would still have major problems. So I'm going to just say right now, I'm going to spoil the story. So if you have not played Spider-Man 2 and you want the story preserved, and you don't care if it's terrible, then just I'll mark in the video and the podcast description of where I'm spoiling things. But there's a variety of things that they did with the story that just can't be fixed. For starters, I mean, of course, even if you take out the Mary Jane missions where she's extremely overpowered and can take out enemies in fewer hits than either of the Spider-Men, which makes zero sense. Even if you take all that out, there's other things that they have. Number one, they made it so that Venom was essentially neutral / good, and it was Peter that corrupted Venom. Because, of course, he's a toxic white male. That's obviously the reason why he corrupted Venom, is because he's toxic, because he's a white man. That's all there is to it. It's sweet baby influence, obviously. So, never mind, the fact that Venom has historically always been evil. No, it's Peter that corrupted Venom, and that's the real reason why Venom was so bad, and why Venom ultimately corrupted Harry, who's the new Venom, which, like, I don't mind them making Harry Venom. I think it's like, okay, cool, you can do something different, that's fine. And then made it so that, what's the name of the female Carnage variety? Gosh, I can't remember. I want to say it's like Screamer or something. I don't think that's correct, but anyway, the point is that they made it so that Mary Jane essentially got the Venom suit on her, and then she turned into this Screamer character or whatever. And that, of course, it was all Peter's fault, once again, because Peter wasn't supportive enough of her, whatever stupid reason. Yeah, so they just completely ruined the story. And then, of course, you have, obviously, the way that they ended it, where they have it so that because Miles is very capable, and nothing wrong with that, and because the fact that they didn't have the balls to actually just kill Peter, instead, Peter steps down from being Spider-Man so that he can go fight climate change alongside his toxic girlfriend, and abandon his responsibility with all the power he has. It's like, screw you, Uncle Ben, basically. So that Miles becomes the only Spider-Man. And of course, then they give Miles like the worst Spider-Man costume in the end. Like I like the original Miles spider suit. I think it's great. The black spider suit. I think that's great. I mean, it it's different, and totally understand tokenism. You're not up for that. Especially as you being the resident black man, you have every right to feel that way. I definitely understand the arguments. It didn't bother me that much, just because I thought it was an interesting concept. And I like Miles when he is replacing Spider-Man because Spider-Man died, versus because he got emasculated, and because he had to do the soy-filled garbage alternate direction that involves completely abandoning his responsibility that came with his great power. But with Miles, with the new outfit they gave him, they made it so that he has a hole in the top of his Spider-Man mask so that his dreads can stick out. I mean, it's just, short dreads, and it's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. If someone has that hairstyle, great. More power to him. But it's like, he has to make sure everybody knows he's black by showing off his dreads. And it's like, really? Is that really necessary? I mean, of course, then they had before that they had like Batgirl and stuff with her hair sticking out. So I guess it's not really that much worse. But it's still just like, really? Is that necessary? Yeah, they just did so many horrible things with the story that it's like, even though the gameplay itself, at least in general, minus some of the stuff the Mary Jane missions and the stuff that they added in that was just 100% unnecessary modern politics garbage. Like the gameplay of Spider-Man is amazing. Otherwise, I mean, like when you're swinging around, the combat, it's all super great. But it's just all the stuff that they had to put in there that completely ruined it and made it so that I will not buy that game. And even if someone gifted it to me, I wouldn't play it. I would just tell them, I would try to return it and get them their money back, because I don't. It's like, no, I wouldn't even take, even if I won a free copy of it, I would not take it. I would give away the code to someone who doesn't care. And I wish that I could not care about the story, because there's enough situations where I don't care that much. Like Horizon, for example. Honestly, the story was like, it was fine. With Zero Dawn, to me, it was just a little... It was too derivative. Forbidden West, I haven't finished yet. So far, what I played, I thought the story was better, even though I still don't like Aloy at all. I think she's an awful character. But at least in terms of the gameplay and the overall story, I thought was good enough to where I'm still interested in continuing it, and I do want to play some more Forbidden West and actually finish it, and probably even go for the Platinum equivalent. Well, Yeah, because that would be separate from New Game Plus, assuming New Game Plus is part of it. Um, but this to me is just a travesty. What they did, and I mean, I think honestly one of the things I hate the most about what they did with Spider-Man is because, I mean, they didn't just do Peter dirty; they did Miles dirty. I think Miles deserved better than that. And regardless of, I mean, I know you don't care for Miles, and that's fine. Um, I like Miles as a character, and I just hate the fact that the only reason why they made him the new Spider-Man was because of what they did to Peter. I wish that they had just killed Peter in a dignified way, like they did in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, where he was legitimately a hero who was celebrated, and Miles took on the mantle because Peter died. And it's like, that was the right way to go about it. It was respectful to the character, and what they did to Peter was not respectful. And so I can't blame Miles for what they did to Peter. I can only blame the writers for what they did to Peter. And I absolutely despise that for the story, and it's the reason I will not play it. I will not buy it. I will not play it. As far as I'm concerned, Spider-Man Remastered and Spider-Man Miles Morales are all we need. And Miles Morales even had some stuff that I didn't care for. Some political stuff that I'm just like, this does not need to be here. But the story, otherwise, was good. I liked Miles as a character. I thought, regardless of, the race and gender swaps that they did for some of the other characters, it's like, I still enjoyed it overall. I thought it was worth it, and I'm glad that I played that game, because I thought it was a solid game. But it was not egregious enough to where it bothered me. Spider-Man 2 is beyond that. Is far beyond that, because they went from basically went from 0 to 11. And not in the funny way like in Spinal Tap. So anyway, I've ranted enough about that. Going back to the actual topic and off of the spoilers. So, when it comes to this PC port, I do think it's funny how much faster it has come. I do think that this is the direct. I think that they were going to do this regardless. I don't think Concord had anything to do with them deciding to release it January 30th, which I didn't even mention the actual date. January 30th, 2025 is when Spider-Man 2 comes to Steam, and I believe also the Epic Games Store. I think that this was always their plan, and the only reason more games haven't come out as early is just because of the fact that they started the PC port too late. And I think that, the next time that we even have a PlayStation exclusive first party game might be Ghost of Yotei. It's going to be either that or Wolverine. I'm not sure which will be coming first. But more likely than not, whichever one it is, it's only going to be a year between the release. I think that that's very, very likely. That's what's going to happen, and that's going to be the norm. And I believe in time, we'll see if it's sooner or later, I believe that they are going to start closing that gap little by little, as much as they can until it's day and date. I think day and date is going to happen. I just don't think it's necessarily going to be, I would say maybe a year or two would be the earliest that they would start doing that. But I at least as of right now, there's no indication that they're going to do day and date with a brand new first party tentpole game. And ultimately, it's for the best for us, because that way we have a chance to find out whether or not a game is going to be worth our time and money, like Ghost of Yotei. And that is whether or not Ghost of Yotei is going to be worth our time and money. Long before it comes to PC. So it is to our benefit. But either way, I think it's funny. And I think it's funny how much the goalposts are moving. And they keep moving and they keep moving. And too many PlayStation fans just need to accept this is going to be the reality, period. There are no more exclusives on PlayStation. None whatsoever. And, well, I should say there will be no more exclusives other than the old games that have not gotten remastered. And any of those games that get remastered will be on PC same day. Because that's what they've been doing so far, and I don't have any reason to believe that they will not continue to do that. They are making sure that those ports happen at the same time, and the PC players are always going to get the better version. Hands down. Now, some people will have weaker PCs that can't play the games as well, and that's fine, but they still have the freedom that PC brings, and don't have to pay for online, and so on and so forth. And the great thing is that if the PC gamer decides that they want to make upgrades to their hardware later on, they don't have to buy a brand new platform to do it, especially if they're doing a desktop, because all they have to do is swap out some parts as needed. And I have a feeling that, like, my computer, even though the last time I made a real upgrade to it, apart from getting more storage and a completely unnecessary extra 32 gigs of RAM that don't get used at all, I have not upgraded my PC in 5 years, and I know that, number one, it's way stronger than a PS4 or PS5 Pro, but it will probably be stronger than the PS6 as well. I will probably still be set for a long time, even though more likely than not, before the PS6 is out, or probably within a short amount of time after it's out, I'll probably end up upgrading if I can afford it. We'll see how things go. But I think that's all I have to say on this. Obviously, I ranted a lot about Spider-Man 2 and how much I hate what they did with it, but once again, I'll note that in the description for the timestamps of when I do full spoilers, and that way, if you don't want to hear it because you don't want to be spoiled on the story, then you don't have to be. If you do want to hear it, then you have a chance to hear me rant. And even if you love Spider-Man, you can still listen to me rant, because that's how I feel about the game, and you can't change my mind on the matter. You just can't. What they did was terrible. Nothing more I can say about that. Okay, I'm done. All right, you got any other thoughts on that?
No. Nothing else from me.